Welcome to the Life Coach University conference on the secret on how to reach your goals. Don't we all want to reach our goals? I am obsessed with goals, and anyone who knows me could attest to that. So before we get started, and while everybody is coming in, I can take the opportunity to introduce myself a little bit quickly. So my name is Anna Wallner, a business mindset coach for women, primarily Swedish women, since I'm a Swede, but not only. I have international clients too. And I'm also the host of the Life Coach podcast. And I'm also the creator of the Business Mindset program and the Business Mindset process, which I'm super excited about. So I will be your host today, and I am just so excited to be with you all. So this conference, as I've said, probably 4 or 5 times now, is hosted by the Life Coach University, which is a pay it forward platform. So this means that the Life Coach University hosts webinars and workshops and coaching sessions where anyone can join for free. And all of these are held by super experienced coaches from all over the world. And it's on all possible topics. So it suits, I would say, everyone. Everyone can find something at the Life Coach University that is relevant to them. And it's just so cool. And this is the first conference ever. And it will be many more conferences to come on other topics. So stay tuned. But as I said, this one is of goals. And I'm just so excited about it. So before we get started, I actually wanted to tell you what a definition of a goal is, so we're clear. So where do you go? You go to the Googles. And their explanation for a goal was, a goal is an idea of the future or desired result that a person or a group of people envision, plan, and commit to achieve. I thought that was a pretty nice description of a goal, actually. So I don't know if you're a goal-oriented person. Maybe you're here because you're interested in knowing more about goals and how to reach them, but you have actually not set any goals for yourself, or you're super experienced in setting goals. And it doesn't really matter what your goal is, if it's to lose weight or get a promotion, fly around the world, move countries, become an actor, or maybe write and or edit an epic movie. I have no idea. But either way, it doesn't really matter, because mind management that we all work with here as coaches and mindset is such a huge part of getting to where you want to go. And also, it's the key, I would say, to enjoying the road, because we don't want to stress and hustle and make it difficult on our way to our goal, right? We want to enjoy it. That's much more fun. So today we have 4 keynote speakers that will tell us about their different secrets when it comes to reaching their goals. And they're all coaches that teach at the Life Coach University, and they're super experienced and renowned in their own fields. And I'm so excited to have them here at the conference today. And it's such a huge, huge honor to have them. And I will introduce them as they come on, because all of them will have their own segment. But in the speaking order that we're going to present today, we have Tonya Hunt, we have Norma Frahn, Kelly Turner, and Chris Weals. So I'm beyond excited. So when they have all done their talks, then we're actually going to have a round table discussion. And this is pretty important because you need to know this now, because the questions that we will answer during that roundtable discussion, when all of us 5 will be on, those questions that we will answer will be the one that you post in the Q&A. So during all the talks, if you have any question, if anything is like unclear or you want it a little bit more explained, write it in the Q&A that you see at the bottom of your screen. I hope here, I did anyway. And if it relates to a certain talk or a certain topic or anything, then write that so I know who to address it to. Otherwise, we will all just try to get through as many questions as we possibly can. And if we don't get to your question specifically, we will try to solve it in some way with the Life Coach University, so you will get a reply anyway. So that's what we're doing today. So with no further ado, I am going to try to bring on our first keynote speaker. Tonya is a life and weight loss coach who helps people experience amazing clarity of their possibilities. And she's super committed, and she is a visionary when it comes to helping clients to change life and career, get more education, as I said, lose weight, have better relationships, or setting boundaries. So Tonya will talk about setting heartfelt goals today, and she will be sharing her big dream of moving back home after 25 years. Welcome, Tonya. It's so great to have you.
I am going to be talking today about the big heartfelt goals. What is that? So, it's a goal that comes to you, and it's big because of the time that it will take. It's more of a future focused goal. It's not something that you're going to do right now, but you may start working towards it right now. And it's just a goal that's the perfect match for you. So, my goal was to transition from the north to the south. And for some people, that's not a big deal, but it is depending on your personality and how you like things to be well established. You've worked hard to have it this way, and you're just used to it, and you like your life, you like your routine, you like the social settings that you're a part of, you like the invites that you get. I mean, you like so much that you've worked so hard to have for 25 years or so. But here's this thing. Sometimes there's this still small voice that you hear, and it's just like pulling you in a different direction. So as you may hear it and you may not know what it is, but sometimes you just have to quiet yourself. And that's usually what happens for me, is that after a long vacation or after a couple of days of a retreat, that's when things really come up. That's when I'm really refreshed. That's when I'm really at a point where I can reset and think about other things than what's going on in my day-to-day life and my day-to-day routine. And all of a sudden, I really listened to this, saying, here's, a new trajectory for you. Here's an opportunity for you. Here's something that's going to be right for you. And when I finally listened to that, and when I finally envisioned that in my own life, I actually was able to embrace it. I actually was at peace with it. And as Anna mentioned, mine was a transition from one state to another. It was sort of like, this is where you're going to be at some point in the future. But at the same time, I wasn't sure when it was going to happen, but I was trusting that everything was going to fall into place just as it should. So I continued on with my life and having this big overarching goal there to transition at some point in the future, and just trusting that it was going to happen at just the right time. I just continued to live. I continued to do all the things I was currently doing. And I saw myself in this place and I was totally comfortable with it. And I started realizing that, when you embrace something, your brain wants to take action. Your brain is just not going to let it sit. Your brain is going to say, what are we going to do to start moving towards this, even though we don't have an end date? Because for most goals, you do have an end date. So what are you going to do? So I started realizing that the biggest thing was going to be selling my house. That was going to be the big thing. So I started listening to real estate agents on the radio when I was just traveling back and forth. And then, I got so many great tips, of course, and it was just a natural, very organic progression. So I was listening to this voice, and it was my own voice. It was just this inner quiet voice saying the next stage of your life. I embraced it. I said yes to it, and my brain went to work. So I was actually cleaning out my closet, getting rid of things, just purging things from my life that I didn't need. I was, starting little projects in my house. These were the actions that I was taking at the time. I was starting projects in my house. I was painting. I was doing upgrades in my kitchen, in my bathroom. Now, keep in mind, this happened over a 5-year period because I have made that transition and I couldn't be happier. But I have made that transition now, but it took me, it wasn't immediate. It was a future focused goal. It was a place where I could actually see myself in the future. And in my case, it wasn't just me. My husband had to also buy into this. And it was not a problem for him. He was definitely on board. This made this so much easier for me because trust me, this could have been a talk about relationships as opposed to a talk about transitioning with my big goal. So this was just a yearning I had. And not only did I have this yearning, I started talking about it with other people. That was a big part of it. Because just leaving it up here in your mind, it just, it gives you a chance to shake away from it. But when you start talking about it, it becomes a reality. You put it out there in the world, just like you share with your friends all the things about you, and they share in return. So I was very open about it. So this was a beautiful thing, and I realized that this is something that happens, many times, and we see it mostly in maybe younger people in that when they have something that they want to do in their career or their life, they're already set up for it. They can see themselves in the future doing this thing, living this life, living in a certain place. They know what they want. It's just a burning desire. It's natural and it's organic transition to whatever it is that you want to do. So I'm very careful when I talk about this because it is a big goal and it does take years. But keep in mind, I did a little research and the life expectancy, it's 77 years in the United States, and it's probably higher in other places in the world. But keep in mind that we don't want our goals just to be like dreams forever. We want to take action towards them. And then we want to trust that in due time, it's all going to come together. So you really have to have that trusting instinct that this is where you want to be in so many years from now. So mine took 5 years. And so how do I get there? What's the real secret? Well, first of all, I just kind of got away from my normal routine of life, my normal day-to-day routine. And I was able to listen and hear that small voice in my mind. And then I envisioned myself in that place. I could see that really and truly taking shape. And it was very peaceful. It was very light. I totally embraced it. So it was a perfect fit for me. And then at the same time, like I said, once you embrace it, your brain goes into action. And then you want to talk about it. You want to share it with others. You don't want it to be a secret because it's about you, it's about your life, and it's a big deal. So, if I can give you one actionable tip towards a big heartfelt goal is to really, when you can take time out, when you can take time away from that normal routine of your life, listen, see what comes up for you. And then you'll know. And some of you, you're probably already on that track. And you may not know the end, you may not see the end, but just trust yourself in that. So this is something that you just really just walk through in life. And you feel totally comfortable and totally at peace with it. Even though it's big, it's going to take some time, but you can see yourself in that place. And that's what I have for you today.
That is so amazing, Tonya. I think what you just said at the end, like the peace and it's going to happen, and like that determination, just made me feel like so, I don't know, secure. And now you have already given an actionable tip that I was going to ask you for. But I wanted to ask you something else, though, because when you were talking, you said that, well, taking the time you need. And I immediately, I was like, but how do you keep from sort of getting stressed about it? And how can you rather sort of make this organic transition that you talk about? How don't you get stressed out? How do you build that trust with yourself that you're gonna get there?
Yeah, so that was the thing. Just when you can just envision yourself in a place that, everything else is staying status quo in your life. You're still doing all the things, and now you're just doing, something to really, you're thinking about it, and then it's going towards that goal. And there's no rush, there's no urgency. I mean, you just know that this is a place you're going to be, and it just takes a lot of trust. And I think when you're in that place, that you will be at peace, because you're like, yeah, this is what I want in the future. This is what I'm going to have in the future. And right now, I'm just doing all these things. And I know at some point it's just going to happen for me. Not to be lackadaisical in the brain, because it's kind of like this. Dreams, we don't want them to go on forever, but you're preparing for them today. It's just like saving money. It's like, this is this thing I want out in the future, and I'm just putting money to the side right now for it. Eventually I'm going to get there, and I'm going to have everything I need to make that transition.
I love that. Is that certainty, like building that certainty and trust in yourself that you talk about?
Yeah, and it's just confidence that this is just going to be another part of my life. I mean, and we do this, for our kids all the time, how we may grow them up. There's just so many wonderful analogies to apply to this, saving money, how you raise your kids, and everything is just like, when it's very, very personal to you, you already know.
Yeah.
It's very personal to you, and you just keep hearing that voice, and that's the thing too. It just keeps coming back to you.
Mm.
It just
we all know that voice, don't we? Because if we don't have that voice, we wouldn't be here, right?
That's right. Exactly. It's
Thank
just
you
the
so
perfect fit
much.
for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. So thank you so much for that insight. So much goodness. It's wonderful. Thank you, Tonya. Now we are going to go to Norma. So Norma, get ready. I am going to come for you. Norma is a life coach for weight loss, and she helps women who are done with dieting to learn how to lose weight their way. And it's amazing. And Norma, she's going to talk about setting small incremental goals today to stay motivated and focused. Hi, Norma. So great to see you, to have you here.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. I'm really honored to be here to talk to you today about The power of setting small incremental goals that keep you motivated to achieve those big, seemingly impossible goals. And as Anna said, my name is Norma Frahn, and I'm a life coach for weight loss. And 4 years ago, I lost over 100 pounds through the transformative power of coaching. And that journey led me to become a coach. And now I work with my one-on-one clients in my Weight Loss Your Way private coaching program. When I first started out on my personal weight loss journey, I had no belief, just zero, that I could lose 100 pounds. I mean, why would I? Diet after diet had failed, and losing 100 pounds in my mind was just an anomaly, something that could never happen to me. But one of the most important lessons I learned, and frankly, it was the thing that kind of kept me going through the entire process, was understanding the power of meeting myself where I am and implementing small incremental goals that supported me in that space and time. And in the beginning, when I thought about that end result of 100 pounds lost, it seemed so far away. I couldn't relate to it. And when I couldn't relate to it, I couldn't get started. And I think we probably all kind of had that feeling. And oftentimes what happens when we can't get started, we start looking outside of ourselves for the answers and then try to follow someone else's process, which never works. So I knew I had to figure out a process that kept me going, that felt doable for me in that moment. So I did what seemed logical. I started with the numbers and I did the math. My goal in the beginning, I wanted to lose 100 pounds in a year. And when I broke that down, that was 8 pounds a month. That felt a little reasonable, but then I went a little further and I went down to what it would be weekly. And it came out to just a little over 2 pounds a week. Then I got scared again. 2 pounds every week consistently for a year absolutely did not feel reasonable to me. So I sat back and I asked myself, what if I dropped that time element of 100 pounds in 1 year that I was trying so hard to hold myself to? And kind of like what Tonya was just talking about, that time element, it's going to happen. So I started to think about what I wanted to do. And I decided it didn't matter if it took me a year, 2 years, or 3 years. I was going to lose that 100 pounds. My first small change was going to be just to allow the process to take as long as it takes. And then suddenly that 100 pounds felt a little more achievable without all that pressure of getting it done in 1 year. And I knew I was onto something then. So I had to remind myself, though, every day that I wasn't going to focus on that end result of 100 pounds anymore. I'm focusing on today and nothing else. And that's when my practice of setting small incremental goals took hold. So just to give you a little bit of sense of what that looks like, basically what I would do is sit down each week in the very beginning and decide what I could do in that week that would get me closer. I figured out what I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I could accomplish in that week, and I made a plan. So just so you can see what it looks like, the first few weeks, it was drinking 64 ounces of water every day. I could do that. That was a no-brainer. The other thing I tried was writing a food plan every day. That was a little bit of a stretch, but it still felt doable. And I also included having a vegetable with at least 1 meal a day. So 3 very simple, small little steps. And I stuck with that until I had those 3 things completely unlocked. I didn't have to think about it anymore. I just did it. And then I met myself where I was at again, and I was ready to level up my goal to do the next doable thing. So I increased my water to 80 ounces. I kept planning with the planning, and I added vegetables to 2 meals a day. And then somewhere along the way, I decided I wanted some movement. So I added a little bit of yoga, 3 days a week for 10 minutes. And I kept going with that process. And when I had that unlock, I added yet more. I leveled up again. I added vegetables to 3 meals a day. And yes, you can figure out how to add vegetables for breakfast. That was a big stopper for me for a while. And then I moved on to 5 days of yoga. And then I went up to 20 minutes of yoga. And I just kept going with these little small incremental goals. So I think the best analogy I could come up with, and I hope this lands, my process was kind of like compounding interest. I think everybody knows what that is. It's something that some financial institutions do when you take out a loan. Interest, or a small percentage of the amount you borrowed, is compounded daily until all of a sudden it feels like you're paying more in interest than the original loan. But the effects of small incremental goals compounding over time is very similar to compounding interest, only it works in our favor. Every time you set a small goal, achieve it, set another goal and achieve it, you're compounding your motivation, your self-confidence, and the belief that you can actually achieve that big goal. I incrementally continued to level up my process. And every time I leveled up, I created more motivation and more confidence in myself. And around the 6-month mark, I'd lost almost 50 pounds. That's half of that big, scary, impossible goal I had in the beginning. And it was done all on the back of these small incremental changes to my process. So my last tip for you for achieving your goals, and this is so important, when you do these small incremental changes, be sure to manage the expectations you have of your process. For most goals, and especially weight loss, your results will not be linear, meaning there's going to be ups and downs and periods of no change. And this is completely normal. There were times when I experienced weeks and months of no movement on the scale. But when I started to experience those extended periods of no change, I knew it was time to look at my process and determine where an adjustment might be necessary or where I just needed to tighten up some things. So when this happens, I just want you to remember it's never a you problem. It's always a process problem. Go back to your process, examine it objectively, and make a shift. Before you know it, with setting those small, incrementally little goals, they level up over time, and you're going to achieve that big goal that once seemed so completely impossible. So thank you all for listening, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference.
So good, Norma. I just love that when you said with the compounding interest that just by setting these incremental small goals that we will actually compound our motivation and confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And in the moment, sometimes it doesn't feel like it. And we tend to tell ourselves that we're not doing enough, but we really are. When you think about how it compounds over time, just like the interest, we're doing exactly enough.
I think that's so good. And I know that firsthand because you've been coaching me for a year. And
my favorite client.
Yes. And it's just changed my entire life. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had, and the shifts I've had is to learn how to do that. Because one of the biggest problems I think that you touched upon is like that we want to do everything at once. Yes,
absolutely. That's like overhaul your whole life. And it usually always backfires. It's just too much. It's too much. And we can't believe it. And like I was saying in the beginning, when you don't believe, you can't move forward.
But when it comes to belief, since belief, we all know that belief is a super huge thing. Mm-hmm. Do you have any sort of tip when it comes to working on that belief that people who are watching could sort of take?
Yeah, and in my story, and what I've seen so often with my clients is that there usually is this big weight loss goal. And like I said, I didn't believe it. I had zero belief that I could do it. But when I took a step back and took the time element out and stopped worrying about that big goal and started only focusing on 1 week at a time, sometimes 1 day at a time, and started and really recognized my progress in that little tiny time window, I was able to start believing, because as time gone on and as things compounded, I was seeing results. And typically when you start seeing results, the belief starts to kick in. And that was the best way I found to do it.
That's so good, because I think the time element is something that we use against us so often.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is so good, Norma. I think you left us with so much clarity. So a million thanks.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure to do this.
So good. I will put you back. There we go. And we're going to go to our number 3. We're going to go to Kelly. I'm coming for you, Kelly. Get ready. So Kelly works with individuals to move beyond limitations and to access their own wisdom and enhance their lives with self-trust and authenticity. I have such a hard time saying that. And purpose. And that's so good. And Kelly will share a personal story on goals, one that leads to not feeling successful, and a way that you adopted it and how it's helped you, right?
That's right. Yeah. I think we can always share our life lessons to help others.
So I'll just let you get started. So good.
Thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with everybody. And I wanted to share my own story on setting goals. I feel there's a meaningful message in my own life lessons on this subject. So in my 20s and even early 30s, I mainly related goals to career. And everything else, all the other segments of my life weren't as important, even though they really were. And most of my energy went into my career and everything else kind of just slotted in. And I worked hard, I set my goals, I was clear. And looking back, all these goals were always about working up the career ladder. I was focused more on the status rather than the why. I got a lot of richness, opportunities from this way of doing goals, but I didn't feel energized, I didn't feel excited, and I didn't feel alive. More often than not, there was a heaviness. I wished for Friday to come quickly and literally delay the Monday, like Monday just be longer. And I did reach my goals, and sometimes I reached beyond what I was aiming for, but the feeling of success was short-lived. I lacked real fulfillment. My journey has taught me I wasn't looking into the deeper layers of my goals. I wasn't truly listening to myself. And previously, when I look back, I was operating from a place of lack and sometimes fear, not this love and fullness. It went something like, I'll be successful when, I'll be enough when. And my goal orientation was coming from what I thought I should be. I'd lost sight that I was full, I was enough, and everything I did complemented me. It was just an expression of me. It didn't define me. I believe everything has a purpose. And from reflecting on how I used to do my goals has given me guidance how to do them differently. So I want to share 5 things that I find helpful, and you can just take what resonates for you. And I see vision as a means to be inspired, authentically inspired. And the goals are the vehicle to move us towards it. So step 1 is future pace. So I do meditation every morning. It lets me to observe myself, calms my nervous system down. So I'm more I can tap into more my own inner wisdom. And I look at, and it doesn't matter when, but at the moment I'm using, where do I want to be in 1 year from now? But I actually pretend I'm there. So how do I want to feel? How do I want to be? And what will my life look like from being like this and feeling like this? And just really getting curious how that feels within me somatically in my body. And I ask myself, what will my future self be thanking my past self for? I'll say that again. What will my future self be thanking my past self for? And from that, it opens up a doorway and different things often unfold. And then whatever unfolds, I just capture them, what resonates. And I ask myself, why is this important to me? What values does this honor? And the more I build a relationship with my future self, just connecting with it on a daily basis, my vision begins to get more clear. I capture all segments of my life that are really important. I'm a mum, what relationships I want with my children, my career, my relation with my husband, my health, all different things are really, really important to me. So I don't compromise on them. And number 2 is fill in the gap. I look at my future self, where I am now as my future self, and I just look back and I look at how do I need to close the gap from where my future self is to where I am now. And this creates my goals. This gives me clarity, what I need to do, what's the vehicle that I need to do to move towards what's really important to me, what tweaks do I need to make? And for me, I find working quarterly, and then it gives me a little bit something smaller to play with. And then I'd be like, okay, monthly, I just need to complete this task. And then I know how to allocate my time around being a mum too. Number 3 is the excuse plan. Yeah, we've got a plan for these excuses. So I imagine myself as the now self, me now, middle self, and future self. And the middle self is the one that goes, start on Monday, start next month. You know, the one that procrastinates, perfectionism, oh, you can't start until you got everything perfect, the one that gets in the way. So I look at how can I make it easy for my now self and harder for my middle self. And that could be like accountability. That could be if you're going to the gym, preparing the night before. That might be getting up early. So I'm going to put my alarm clock, so I got to get out of bed to switch it off. That might be just getting a coach or a mentor. That might be just being around the right-minded people that inspire you, that keep you moving forward. Whatever that makes your now self, makes it easier to move forward. The next one is number 4, which is the presence and listening. So what I've learned from how I used to do goals is that I was like this, tunnel vision. I need to climb the career ladder, and all my intuitive nudges, all the redirections did happen, but I ignored them. And so now what I realized, we need to get focus at points, but we need to be open to, because as we move forward, we learn more about ourselves. We see things we didn't even know existed, different opportunities come up. But when we know how we want to feel later in our life, we get to know that's a redirection. Actually, I didn't see this coming, but actually that resonates more with me now. So we're moving authentically, not getting in tunnel vision to what we thought we wanted maybe 6 months ago or a year ago. And then the small steps and solutions, which has beautifully been touched on. And I just want to emphasize, this is a journey, and journey is our life. The destination is short-lived, and we have to really enjoy that journey, really be enriched, enjoy, be kind to ourselves. And remember, there's no such thing as failure. It's just feedback. And there's always a solution to be found. And when we focus on the small step, celebrate yourself. You've committed to yourself. This is part of consciously creating the future that you want, that is already there for you to be claimed. So celebrate each step, grow with each step, be inspired with each step. And as I come to the end of my talk, I just want to emphasize the importantness of the beingness and the doingness, the two aspects of ourselves. In the beingness, every single person's got so much wisdom that they can tap into their truth, what's important to them. And then that can be led by the doingness, the actions that we need to do to manifest this into our lives. Thank you for listening. It's been such a pleasure, and hand you back to Anna.
So good, Kelly. And I love that when you said, like, there is no failure, there is only feedback. Because I think failure is such a huge block for many of us. We're so scared of failing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly did. And even though you can sometimes push forward, it's like a force, it's a push. When you accept failure, you do it with much more ease, and you see the growth element in it. You see like, oh, this is serving me. So you start to see that everything is for you, not against you. You start to see the lessons, the wisdom in it, and then that can really inspire you what you need to prioritize next.
Yeah, and also be able to celebrate it. Like, okay, it doesn't matter. We don't see it as a failure. We see it as a growing opportunity and a learning, and we can celebrate that, and that makes you shift, like you say.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
But for many people that are watching, maybe this concept that you talk about, like connecting to your future self, maybe that's news to many people. How would you suggest that you start working with your future self, so to speak?
Yeah, beautiful question. Thank you. So basically, for me, this is about the beingness. Yeah, this is about really connecting with our own truth. And so it's really allowing you have that space. So for me, I do it in the morning before I have the children bouncing on top of me. And so you need quiet. And this all it is literally using your body. So we're not so much always in the cognitive, where it's a whole body experience. So first of all, you can just tune in, like, for example, just even bring it into your awareness. How do I want to feel by the end of this year? How is it that I want to feel? And just see how that feels differently. And often you'll feel little subtle shifts. And then just go, what if I'm feeling like this? What am I doing differently? What am I believing differently? allow yourself that childlike curiosity to just birth new possibilities. But it's more with the future. It's really not just about the cognitive. It is using the cognitive, but using the emotions, getting an emotional connection with where you want to be in the future. But yeah, so get a quiet space and just first question, how do I want to feel if it's a year or 2 years or 5 years from now, whatever resonates, and just see what opens up to that. What is it? And just what do I believe? What do I want to do? And just allow to see what unfolds. This is a relationship, so you know, do it many times.
I think that's beautiful that you go through the feeling, like, how do I want to feel? Instead of, because often when you go to workshops, it's like, oh, you should envision how you want to see yourself in, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years. But very few people ask, how do you actually want to feel? And to be honest, that's a much bigger difference, right?
Yeah. And the more I've done it, the more I tune in. I'm like, I'm feeling more grounded. I'm feeling more open. And then those can go, okay, but what am I doing differently? If I'm that person now, how will I be showing up today differently?
Yeah.
So it's your future self. It's inspiring you in the now, so that you're constantly moving towards it.
It's so good. Thank you so much, Kelly, for all that wisdom. It was the five steps were just so good.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So good. I'm going to put you back so we can go to Chris. So good. And don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A if you have questions. Okay, Chris, get ready. I'm coming to you. So I want to introduce Chris, and he's an adventurer and loves helping people to live fulfilling and joyful lives. And he's super passionate about helping others, and especially to rise above depression and anxiety, because he knows all about those things. So Chris will be talking about having a powerful purpose for our goals. And remembering our purpose will help us persevere when things get tough, right? So when the going gets tough, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction, Anna. Right. So yeah, I really think it's important to have a powerful purpose behind your goals. And like you said, that will help you keep going when the going gets tough. And then also it'll help you stay focused when shiny objects come in and try to distract you and steal your attention and get you off base, right? So I want to share a story of one of my clients to illustrate this for you. And this is somebody who started working with me 2 years ago and has become a very close friend of mine, and now even a business partner. But 2 years ago, he came to me and he had a business at the time, but he wasn't feeling fulfilled by it and satisfied. So he wanted something more for his life. And he had a passion for treating depression and anxiety and PTSD with alternative drugs because of his own personal healing and awakening journey. And so coming to me, we worked on turning that passion into a purpose. And for me, purpose equals passion plus service. So he already had this passion because of his own experience. And so all we needed to do was add that element of service. And so what he came up with is, well, wow, okay, I want to help others on their healing journey with alternative drug treatments. And so he came up with a goal of going back to school to get a degree in nursing so he can then go work for a ketamine clinic. And ketamine clinics are very successful in treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And so he thought, wow, this is awesome. This is something that's for me. But he had to create really big goals going back to school. And he had a business already. So that's obstacle number one was, what do I do about this business? I don't want to lose the business, but I don't want it to get in the way. So he had to really focus on how he can, slow that down, but keep it going so he can fund his life while he's going to school to become a nurse. And so that was obstacle one. And then along the way, school's tough, right? Any of us who have been through school, we know it's not always easy. There's a lot of internal obstacles, external obstacles, time constraints. And so throughout his nursing program, he ran into a lot of these obstacles. And the thing that helped him through all along was having this powerful purpose in mind the whole time. He had it written down and easily viewed on a daily basis. So whenever the going got tough, he would turn to his purpose, and that would help him keep going. Now, fast forward to just this past December, he graduates with a bachelor's degree in nursing, and he has all these new opportunities being presented to him to become to go a more traditional route in nursing. So go work for an emergency department at a hospital or another department at a hospital. And the benefits and the pay are really enticing. But again, he remembers his purpose. And yeah, that would be nice to go and make that kind of money and have that kind of an exciting path in emergency. However, his purpose was to help people overcome, these treatment-resistant forms of depression, anxiety, PTSD. And so he reached out to a local ketamine clinic and asked if they were hiring. And they said, well, you need to have your license already. And so he responded, hey, look, I'm really passionate about this. I really want to be a part of what you do. So can I just come work for you for free? Can I come volunteer until I get my license? And they were blown away by his enthusiasm, his passion, and said, yes, please, of course, come work with us. We'll pay you, actually. And then once you get your license, we'll bring you on full-time as a nurse administering ketamine. So he is now living this dream that he created 2 years ago, because he created such a powerful purpose, which was based on his passion, and then adding that element of service to bring his passion and share that gift with the world, right? And so all along, he did have these internal and external obstacles, these really heavy challenges, but the purpose kept him going. And then he had the distractions of, opportunities of more money, more excitement. But again, he remembered his purpose, and that kept him going. And he already he's going to go back to school and become a nurse practitioner. So and then he has ideas for how he can help the patients of this ketamine clinic have longer term benefits. So the money that is so attractive for going in this other route up front, I strongly believe that that's nothing compared to the potential that he has to build something amazing, and the wealth and the money that he'll make from that will blow these other opportunities out of the water. So that's not a problem. And he'll get to do that living out this purpose. So that, to me, that's incredibly powerful. And that's why we should have goals that are based on powerful purpose, because having that really will keep you driven. And so I want to share just a quick tip on how you can actually create your own purpose and then have goals that are aligned with that. So a lot of people think purpose is something you need to be lucky enough to discover. You need to find your purpose. Well, I say, now forget that, create it. Go out and create your purpose. And you can do this. There are many ways. There are people like Stephen Kotler, Jack Canfield. There's a lot of people out there who have awesome methods. And I use these for myself and for my clients to create that sense of purpose. I want to offer something really simple. So take a passion that you have, and maybe you feel like, oh, well, I have too many, or I don't know what my passion is. Okay, so maybe it's not a passion, maybe it's a value. Maybe it's something you just care about, like family, community, courage, health, anything like that. So it's something that you really care about, and combine that with element of service, right? So, and in a way that you enjoy. So how do you like helping other people? Do you like teaching? Do you like motivating? Do you like writing? Do you like inspiring? So for me, I like to inspire people with my own personal journey, my own story. And I've always liked tutoring and teaching since I was a little kid. And I want people to experience, I'm very passionate about mental fitness and about life satisfaction and fulfillment. So I've combined for me, like that style of delivery of, I like to teach and inspire people to feel their best and have an amazingly satisfying life. So that's a purpose that I've created, and then started setting goals and vision for my life around that purpose. And that's something that you can do yourself. Thank you.
That's so good. Because when you say like, go create your purpose, I think we are so many that just like you say, we just sit around waiting for like the purpose to appear. And I also hear, well, we all hear people that sort of, they go to a yoga retreat, or they go to India, or they go somewhere to find themselves. Do you think that is a little bit the same, that you, rather than finding yourself, you could go about creating yourself?
100%. Yeah, I think that's what we're all up to here. And I think we are all creating ourselves all along. Even if we go somewhere to try to find ourselves, we still have to create ourselves. And so I think what's happening with most people is they're creating themselves unintentionally. They're not aware of the self that they're creating. And so you can just bring more awareness and intention to your experience and go, you know what, I'm going to intentionally create who I am and what I'm up to on this planet. Like what is the experience I want to have? How do I want to show up and contribute to the world and help others and do my part to make this world, more beautiful and amazing. Right. And so, yeah, you can just, like I was one of those people who was kind of drifting along for 20 years, not knowing and hoping to one day find my purpose. And then I watched a Jack Canfield masterclass, and he had a purpose statement exercise. I went through it, and like that, I'm like, wow, I wish I knew it was that easy 20 years ago.
Yeah, because I think many people are watching, they think might be complicated, and like there is something deep buried and it's difficult to get sort of a hold of. But how would you suggest someone start when they try to sort of create themselves and their purpose on purpose?
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I think a really good thing to do is start by just get a pen and a paper and start writing out things that you care about, things that you're curious about, things that you're interested in. So these are passions and values, right? What matters to you, and just start to make a long list. And then, so maybe you have a list of 30 things, and then truncate that by grouping these things into smaller categories until maybe you come up with a list of about 5 things that you really care about. And then start thinking about the ways that you like to serve others. Right? So like I said, like you like to inspire, you like to write, you like to speak, you like to teach, whatever that is. And then you can combine these things, your passions and your values, with your preferred method of sharing with others. So for me, it's a simple, really like a 2-step process. And you can bring your closest friends and family and have them help you with this, because sometimes it could be hard to think of these things for yourself on your own. So bring in your spouse or your best friends or your siblings and do this together. And it could be really fun. My girlfriend and I actually did this with some friends of ours one night, and we had a great time doing it. And it was very helpful and insightful to have people outside of myself give me their insight. So it was a fun exercise.
That's so good, because I don't think we think about that when we sort of do this work. We always think that we need to do it alone.
Right. No, so yeah, and it's more fun and a little more helpful to have others help us out and then do the same for them.
Yeah, that's so good. So I'm going to let you, thank you so much. That was amazing. Amazing.
That was fun.
Much actionable things to do. There's so many things now all the attendees will have to do when we sign off. It's like fix all of these things and everything on purpose. Thank you so much, all of you. It's so much wisdom, so many actionable tips, so fantastic, so much greatness. And you guys, we have, first of all, we're on the hour, but I'm thinking we'll take 10 minutes to go through as many questions as we can because we promised. So I'm just gonna go into the Q&A, and we have so many questions. Attendee says, Norma, you make losing weight very doable. Your story is very inspiring. Small incremental changes make big results. I'm getting goosebumps listening to your talk. Thank you so much for sharing your personal journey. That's so good. So amazing. Love the small goals. Tonya talked about getting her husband on board with the goal. I have so many goals. It feels like I can share my goals with strangers and they all support me. They're really behind me and cheer me on. But when I share my big goals with my partner or family, they are really against the goal, and lots of, that might work, or that might not work, or what will you do if this happens? So I start to doubt myself when it comes to my heartfelt goals. Tonya, or all of the speakers, how do you keep your goals when your family and friends closest to you aren't supporting it? Who's up for answering?
Yeah, I'll
Tonya,
just speak to it, just because some goals, they will involve other people, and it's important to have their buy-in, but not all goals are going to involve. Some goals are going to be very personal and intimate with you. So it really depends. I mean, luckily, if you're transitioning, yeah, you do have to have your family members that live in the house with you on board, especially if it's your spouse. But if you're just, if it's just your own personal goal, something you want to do for yourself, then go for it.
So good. Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, some people we do have to involve, but some people we might not have to involve. Yeah. So
may I just add, I think it's just a reminder as well, you know, even if it's loved ones, everyone is living life with their own lens on the world. So what is important to you doesn't mean it's important for them, because they're just seeing life very differently. So if it's like Tonya said, if it's your personal goal, surround yourself by people that have the same similar lens, so that you feel inspired and nourished to keep going forward.
So good. And I think that's very easy to forget, that we do have our own glasses, so to speak, of the world. And yeah, that's so good to remember. Okay. Sometimes with new goals, I have a difficult time planning them out and doing the work to see them through. What can I do to make sure I stay committed to achieving a goal that I have never achieved before? Good question. Who's up?
Take a stab at it, Anna, if you'd like.
Yeah, perfect. Norma, go.
I think it aligns really, really very much with this idea of small incremental goals. So yes, that's important to set them, but it's also so important to celebrate them. And this is often challenging because I think we get caught up in that thinking that it's just such a small thing. Why would I celebrate that I drank my water today? But that's a huge deal. And that's the thing that keeps you moving forward, when you acknowledge the work that you're doing and see it as a win and take it as a win. It kind of just naturally brings up more motivation and more confidence. So that would be my best tip. Celebrate those wins.
Yeah, I would just go with what I've got your goal that you feel is maybe too big at the moment. Firstly, ask yourself, why is it important? And what will you lose? Will you lose, or what your future self will lose if you don't commit? And then just focus on one, like Norma said, one thing this month. What's one thing you can do this month that doesn't feel too big, but it's stepping towards what you really want?
The fear of failure, and instead of thinking of failure as failure, think of it as feedback. And I think that applies here. So if you're working on a goal that's new and you don't really know how to get there, start looking at every step of the way as feedback and opportunities to evaluate what's working, what's not, what can I do differently. And so if you experience a failure along the way, don't give up and quit. That's the failure, right? Think of it as, okay, here, this is an opportunity for me to learn and to grow and to keep moving forward, right? Maybe I just make some adjustments. Maybe I try this, try that. So don't be afraid to just try new things and then evaluate and see how they go.
Okay, we have another one. We just go right through them. Setting so many goals at once. This is what I do every year at New Year's Eve. Usually by mid-January, I've done nothing towards the goals because it's all too overwhelming. Oh, we know that one, right? What to do with that one?
Take that, because I think that's it has a lot to do with what I was talking on earlier. So focus on the most important goals. What do you actually care about? What are your highest priorities and values? And if you do create that powerful purpose first and the vision, like Kelly talked about, then set goals that are relevant to those, right? So don't worry about the other goals that aren't as important or interesting to you. You really have to have a high level of interest in these goals, or you're just not going to keep going with them. So.
If I can add to that, Anna, I think this is, having that one goal that you work on is so important. But what's really interesting and what I learned, at least in my own journey, is the process that you put in place to achieve that one goal is usually very transferable to any other part of your life. So once you get a good process in place that you can follow, that feels comfortable for you, that works for you, it's just kind of like a lift and shift. You have another goal now you want to do. Well, you know how a process works well for you. So just that you can apply it to that part of your life. So it's kind of builds on each other.
Can I set many goals, but in different areas of my life, like work, health, finances, or will that affect my chances of reaching them?
My lesson before, I was just focused on one goal, but obviously, as I shared, my why was completely missing. Yeah. So I think everyone's lives are very different. So whatever your goals are, I always feel there's going to be quite a dominant one where the most change is going to be needed. So, okay, for example, at the moment, my most dominant one is my career. That takes my most energy because I'm learning. So it takes lots more energy. But I still have goals on relation to what the mum I want to be, that my health. So those have more micro. So they're more kind of sustaining goals. So for example, my health goals, I'm not training for any marathon or half marathon. That's not my priority right now. So what I've done instead, I'm just going to eat healthy. And I've gone into cleansing because it fits in with my life. It doesn't add any stress to my life. So I'm still valuing that health goal, but it takes less energy because more energy needs to go into this one. And then, for example, I know I don't want to complete my career goal and then look back and go, oh, I've neglected, I'm not the mum I want to be. I haven't got this relationship with my children. So I go, okay, how can I make sure I'm not compromising there? So I make sure I have pockets of time in my diary. I block it out. This is family day. Put the phone to one side. It's about quality time. So it makes me more kind of makes me more conscious of it being quality time with my children. So that's how I do it. So I don't neglect other areas of my life, but I'm very clear on where the biggest change is. That's where the most energy. So I have to be realistic with the other ones.
So it's more like balancing and prioritizing.
Yes. Yeah.
So good. So good. Okay, we're gonna take another one. It's okay. I love how Kelly makes the goals thinking about your future self and how you want to feel and what to do to close the gap. I will start doing that now. Okay, here we go. Tonya's confidence in knowing that her goal is going to happen is so inspiring. The idea of preparing for the goal is great. Yeah, that's perfect. Having a relationship with my future self, what do you suggest when I don't see my life getting better? There's so much right now that seems to be out of my control.
Yeah. first of all, if you feel really full up and feels very clouded, if I'm sensing in your words. So what I would suggest, not put the pressure on, I got to figure it all out. Yeah, just be really kind to yourself, be very compassionate. And when I say compassionate, what you're feeling now is part of the human experience. You're not alone in this. So what I would suggest is even if you take pen to paper, whatever is in your head that's clouding everything up, just start journaling. Just give that to yourself, even if it's for a week, and just start putting yourself onto paper so that you're emptying yourself and not adding, like, I need to connect to my future self now. Just start emptying yourself first. And then just see how you feel. So meet yourself where you are at the moment, and then when you feel less overwhelmed or feel less things are feel full, then you can start taking those pause and go, change is always happening. Nature teaches us that change is always happening. So wherever you're feeling now is going to be constantly changed. So where you are now to where you are in a few months is going to be different. So bringing that compassion to yourself first, using journaling or writing or scribbling, wherever works for you, just to offload.
So good. I think journaling is always a very good thing to do, to write everything down. Yeah. So good. Great formula. Purpose plus passion equals service. How do you keep serving if there's financial strain? What now causes me stress and builds resentment? Sounds like you need to answer that one, Chris.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think a lot of people who start passion-based businesses have this issue, right? So they put a lot of pressure on themselves to have that make money for them. So what I recommend is have another source of income that's maybe not related, but at least is a little flexible, or maybe part-time, something that gives you the time that you can work on this thing that you're more passionate about, that's your purpose. And then the second one is be so passionate about it, care so much about it, that the act of giving itself, that service, is its own reward. You know, if you're looking to gain from it, if that's where you're at, then maybe that's not your real purpose or passion, right? So find something that helping others with it is its own reward. That's what I have to offer for that. That's what coaching is for me. I had a business in accounting before, and doing that work wasn't its own reward. And so I understand where you're at, because I wound up having those same types of feelings about that business. But what I'm doing now, I love so much that doing the work, helping people in this way, is its own reward. I don't need anything else from it.
So good. So rather having something that can bring in the money and use that as a bridge.
Yeah. Until you can build that up, right? Start bringing in the revenue that you need from that to support you and your family, whatever financial gains you need from that. Have something else that will bridge that gap. Exactly. It takes so much pressure off.
So good. Yeah, because we don't want the pressure. The pressure is never good.
Right. No, yeah, it kills your energy. You're not coming from the right place if you have that kind of pressure on yourself. And I know this from personal experience as well.
So good. But I'm going to read, we have more questions to answer, but we are now over time, big time. So I'm going to read 2 more comments and then we're going to wrap up. So creating your purpose is amazing. I love that it doesn't have to already exist. I can choose what it is. Yeah, we do love that one. It's really, really good. So creating myself intentionally, that is so useful, Chris. Thank you very much. So that's amazing. To wrap up, thank you so much, Kelly and Chris and Norma and Tonya, for being here. What you have shared has been amazing, and I'm so glad that you had the time to come on. And we also want to direct everyone to go to lifecoachuniversity.com and check out all the goodness that is there, don't we? And with that, I just want to thank everybody attending for your time and commitment and engagement in all the questions and everything. It's been so wonderful to have you all here and to host you. And just thank you, everyone. Thank you again for all the actionable tips and all the wisdom and all your love to the human race and the earth.